items in executive session that we needed to take care of. We're going to have some special guests here this evening to do the Pledge of Allegiance for us. It will be our Boy Scout Troop 25 from Palmer Township. And Mr. Snyder, if you could, sorry, Mr. Snyder, I'm so used to you being over here. If you could announce the individuals, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So tonight we have Boy Scout Troop 25 from Palmer Township here to lead us in the pledge. And just a quick introduction back there, we have Assistant Scoutmaster Mr. Jason Dutt. And I can't see who is all here. I see Mr. Obermeyer, who is our unit commissioner. And in the back there, I do believe I see Max, Nick, Josh, Ben, and Logan? Nicholas, I'm sorry, my fault. So, and who else? Did I miss somebody? Sarah Lee. And Mrs. Lee, who is our treasurer. Yeah, so she can, and she keeps the funds flowing. So, Mr. Dutt, if you want to lead the boys, and we'll begin with the pledge.
So this was a nice surprise. Thank you for coming out this evening. Occasionally, we have the opportunity to honor and recognize some Eagle Scouts, and those boys, I'm sure you already know this, but those are some of the highest rankings that you can earn through the scouting adventure. And it is something that is very near and dear to many of us here at this table. From my own perspective, I had my adult brother was an Eagle Scout and saw great benefit in participating in scouting. And so we hope that you stay on that pathway and continue your adventures with Boy Scouts and beyond. So thank you for coming this evening. Mr. Snyder, I have a feeling that you may have been somewhat instrumental in bringing them here, so thank you for that as well.
Yes, thank you for coming. They're actually, it's just part of a merit badge requirement to attend a public meeting, and I hope I didn't scare them away. I tried to tell them this might not be a long one, but I hope they don't hold it against me if maybe it is. It's hard to predict the length sometimes. Sometimes the summer ones might be a little shorter, so hopefully we can get it done within your normal scout meeting dismissal time, let's say. So we have a little bit of time with that. So again, thank you.
Thank you. We do have a couple presentations, so certainly the caveat, we tell all of our young folks, if you need to leave at any point in time, you certainly are welcome to do that, and we do appreciate you coming out this evening.
Thank you. Mrs. Ramirez, do you have roll call? And I'd like to acknowledge that we have, I believe, Miss Wellington and Mrs. Sayago on the phones. Yes. Okay, next we have superintendent's report.
So again, good evening, and we apologize for the delay. Unfortunately, we had a couple of things we needed to discuss in executive session. Today, I have no specific report, but we do have two presentations. And so we're going to start with our friends from Alloy 5. Bill, if you wouldn't mind starting us out for the evening. As most of you know, we have been working with Alloy 5 and CHA on our proposed high school project. And last week, I believe it was, we had our first formal public ad hoc committee meeting, of which there was a very thorough review of our plans to date and got some input from those who attended. But I did ask Bill to come back after each of those meetings. We'll see how that goes and make future decisions to that, but to give the board members and public who were not able to attend a brief overview. It is going to be a quick overview. It certainly is not the extent to which we met last week. That was about a 2.5-hour meeting. And so we certainly are not expecting that kind of depth or detail. But for our board members in particular, if you have questions, you can certainly send them to Josh, and we'll make sure that Bill or CHA get them for responses. What I will also tell you, I did not give any thought last meeting to recording that meeting, but we will correct that as we move forward. So those tapes will be available for the public and our board. So at that, I will turn it over to Josh and Bill.
Bill, I'm going to turn it over to you. I think Tracy already gave a lot of the
Yeah.
background. So we have a shortened, truncated version of that evening of the presentation, and just want to make sure everybody was on the same page before we enter into the next ad hoc meeting. So, Bill, thanks for being here this evening. Appreciate it, and away we go.
Yeah, thanks for having us. A new high school is so important to a community, so we take this very seriously. And part of that is having these meetings, ad hoc meetings with the public and with the board, so everyone can really discuss what we're doing. So if we go ahead to the next slide, I am going to try and be really quick. This is the sort of short form schedule that we're doing between now and say Christmas. We'll fill in the areas between August and January. But in January, we're heading for an Act 34 meeting, which means we're done with design development. But right now, what we're doing is a board meeting update. We had an ad hoc meeting the previous week. We're going to have 2 more of those ad hoc meetings. They are in-depth. We take a lot of questions, and it's pretty fun, actually. We get some really good feedback and dialogue going. So if you have any questions about the schedule, please yell them out, but we're going to jump ahead to the next slide. So just an overview of some of the things that happened during the last meeting. So CHA reviewed an overall timeline of the cost of the project since we started with initial concepts in 2023 till now, which we're calling May 2025. And the current total budget is, at the moment, is $298,000. $298 million. Sorry. I was like, wait, it got small on me. Sorry, my brain is not taking the heat. And that's based mainly on square footage. And we've been working very hard to get the square footage of the building down. And we have it down, coalescing with some of the benchmarks that we looked at, but still providing everything that the school really wants to achieve academically, athletically, and community-wise. CHA also shared a benchmark of analysis of cost. I think it was mostly in comparison to Phillipsburg High School. You can go look at that. But we compared very favorably to what was built in Phillipsburg. They took the price from back then and prorated it and got the square footages the same. So that was a positive thing. There's 3 major phases in the construction of the project. Initial site, demolition of the swimming pool, and foundation phase in May 2027, summer 2028. Then construction of the new high school, which happens while the old high school is still there, operating and online. That's summer of 2028 to August 2030. And then when the new high school's done, for a little bit of time, we're tearing down the old high school and making the new parking and the new entries in. And that's early 2030, summer 2031 is when everything is actually done and there's a new site and a new school. The next thing that CHA is going to be doing is really an interactive process. I've done this a couple of times with clients. It's value engineering. Value engineering, we're going to look at what value is there to removing certain things or dumbing down certain things or changing systems to try and save costs. I will tell you, we've been doing value management throughout the process. The administration can tell you how much I hounded them during one specific portion of it. So we have been watching the budget the entire time and making decisions that we believe are affecting the bottom line. So value management, we're going to continue to do that live in meetings, and value engineering, we're going to have an interactive process with you all. Then if you go to the next slide. So a lot is happening with the land development. The site survey, the existing conditions has all been recorded. Geophysical investigation has happened. We know what to expect where, and wetlands investigation has happened. There's no wetlands on the site. Informal meetings were held with PennDOT, 2 of them, includes a scoping meeting, 2 meetings with Palmer Township, and a meeting with Eastern Suburban Water. The major outcomes is that PennDOT is waiving a traffic impact study because the enrollments are staying essentially the same. But we will talk about this later. We're still doing a traffic study internally on the site because there's a lot of things we want to smooth out from your current situation, and that's one of our biggest points of the project, both pedestrian, student, and vehicular safety and movement. The township will require widening of William Penn, Greenwood Avenue with sidewalks and street trees along Greenwood Avenue, William Penn, and 25th Street. So that'll be something that's evolving and developed with the project. And then the current high school is served by a single water line and meter, and we're going to have a second connection so that there's redundancy. If we go ahead one more, yep. So as a follow-up to those meetings, the utilities were evaluated and the site plan was updated so that we understand exactly how we can keep the school operational while we're building the new school. And then next steps, we're working on a mass grading plan. I've seen the preliminary layouts of all the parking. That's looking good. So the mass grading plan is so that we can understand how much dirt we either have or need or zero. That's what we hope. And geotech study, a further geotech study will happen in July and August, which will allow us to really sort of narrow in our foundation systems and help us with costing. So this is going to be real fast, a review of the things that were new during the ad hoc meeting. So if we go to the next slide, we've seen this slide before. It shows you the square footage per floor. Level 1 is down below the parking. Level 2 is at the level of the parking. And then level 3 is up. The only area that has 3 levels is this piece right here. The current school has 4 levels, so that helps us by reducing vertical travel times. And we've also made a compact plan that helps us reduce and kind of center make this sort of central movement where we've taken about 300 linear feet of travel time out of the students' distances from furthest academic to furthest academic. We meet the core program, and we're looking at developing the gymnasium as a space where 3,000 people can get together. And 3,000 is the target for students, right? We want everyone in the room for student body meetings, for things where community wants to come together and someone doesn't have to be sitting in another room on Zoom watching, right? We want everyone to feel a part of the Easton community. So if we go to the next slides, we're just gonna look at the plans real quick. This is level 2. On the main entrance here in the middle, on flanking the entrance, the office, and the nurse. Big picture, we have the athletics on this side, closest to the field, and we have the auditorium and the music over here, and then academics sort of fans out this way. What you'll notice is double hallways that kind of come through, so robust circulation so that all the students can move in a fashion that's not creating friction. Right? We really want to sort of reduce the friction in the hallways. At the same time, we're making the hallways activated during class periods. There's areas where they can go out in there and use them as collaborative spaces. If we go to the next slide, this is really, the heart of the school moment. You come down the main stair, which is right in front of the main entrance, right when you walk through the doors, and that brings you to the media center, the library, and then across the courtyard, which functions as this giant hallway. Allows you to get to the other side. You have the cafeteria with the serving area back here. All of the athletics, the main floor of the gym, the pool over here, and then the main floor of the auditorium stage and the orchestra pit, and then chorus, orchestra, band, and a black box back there. On this level, the lowest level, we have the shops, the maker spaces, the art classes. So this zone's going to be really exciting. It's kind of going to be like a factory of productivity and things that people are making, both like old school skills and new skills that people are just learning today. If we go to the next slide, that's the 3rd floor, the highest floor. Again, similar to the other floors, double hallways, main stair from the beginning, and then very robust egress stairs for safety and also for the movement of students out on the far side. This zone here is an academic commons. This is an IPC where the faculty will have a space to keep their goods, to prepare for class, and to work with other faculty. So those are the 3 plans, and I hope I'm going fast enough. We're going to go to the next slide. Material concept, we like to have an idea for the school, and this idea is One that came out of how Easton was a transportation center, and really the goods from the region traveled through Easton to the rest of the world. And we saw these goods that related to the project, concrete, with the ad from Alpha Concrete, steel, and then silk, as being the sort of foundational elements, but not the only elements that we would try to use. And if we go to the next slide, we'll show you how we intend to do this. Concrete, which you can kind of see right here in the upper corner at City Hall in Easton, is a really great material, abundantly available, very robust, will last a long time. It's also very cost-effective when used as precast. So we're looking for ways to minimize the cost of the building, and we think precast can be something that really helps us without, sort of damaging the aesthetics of the school. We think we can make something that looks really great, just like City Hall and downtown. Steel, we plan on sort of exposing the elements of steel and letting the school itself be a learning moment for students, how things go together. And that expression reduces the amount of materials we're using because we're not concealing everything. So again, cost savings and sort of direct use of materials. And then silk, we're not using silk per se, but we are thinking about the quality of silk and, like a ribbon, possibly a stair, red that comes up through the middle, just something to tie back to it. And it also ties to the, the brand image of the school, that kind of red splash of life that you always see with Easton. So on the next slide, this is a sketch, and literally in the computer like a sketch, that's showing you not only are we using the ideas of silk from the silk mill, but we're using the ideas from those factories themselves. So top lighting the spaces with clear story windows, taking the idea of the loom and the movement of the material and making it into the covering that protects both from the sun but also from the rain over the students as they're entering. And then the concrete, the different textures of concrete that we'll be using on the building, along with exposed steel. And just taking that loom concept into the form, which then goes through and becomes the stair. And in the next slide, just a closer up version of that shows the transparency, warm and welcoming, bright. On the left side, the main office, the security desk has the direct position to see everything that is coming. And then on the right side, we have the nurses' suite, which is tied to a wellness center. So expanded services for students at the front. And next slide. A series of slides that just shows one of the major spaces, which is the media center. So all the way in the back is the front door that we were just showing you, and it's really kind of like from that wall to just outside here. It's very close. A large stair that splits to separate the population of students who are going in directions up, down, and around. And you can kind of see down into there. That's the media center. And the whole thing has skylight above, so natural light is coming down through. And we go to the next slide. This is a view from the bottom of the landing where we just were. So we were standing up on that edge, looking out across the courtyard. There's a classroom that's dedicated to the library, and there's an open sort of study collaboration area with books. Books are throughout the zone of the media center. And if we go to the next slide, we're standing down in that lounge area looking back at the stair that goes up. The main desk, the librarians, the adults sit right here. So there's adult presence strong in the media center. This zone back here, we have a couple views in the other presentation. If you go online, you can look at it. That's the closed area of the library. That's the quieter area. That's the area where you go to have special rooms, to do podcasting and different things. And then next to it over here is the TV studio. Next slide, sorry. And then this is the view looking out from the main desk across the courtyard, which we were saying before is one of your largest hallways, with the cafeteria over there holding about 800 people. A large group of students can come down both hallways or across the middle. It also, this courtyard is going to allow natural light to come in. And so the next space we're going to look at is just beyond here, and that's the main gymnasium. We're going to just do it in one slide if we go to the next one. The main gymnasium is really, I like the design because it deals with the people coming to the event and the athletes in a really nice way. People come in off of the parking in the main area, and then they're on this sort of bowl level above the playing. It's a track, which is used for a phys ed station, and then they go down into the seats. So that keeps a good separation of athletes and spectators. And at the same time, the public can then come out this side to that cafeteria commons that we were just showing right off of the courtyard. So it'll function really well. There's a main sort of athletics room here that gets natural light, and then there's the auxiliary gym, wrestling, and other supporting activities below that. And then not shown is the natatorium, which is over here. And that's really it. Next meeting where we're going to go deep is July 8th. And we're going to talk about spaces outside of the classroom.
Thank you. Any questions for Bill from the board? Okay, thank you. I appreciate the recap.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a great night.
Thanks,
All right, take care. Thank you.
I like the new price.
Okay. Okay, and secondly, we do have Mr. Cook and Ms. Hilton, who are going to provide us with the end-of-the-year data update. Dr. Draper apologizes for her absence, but she is, I believe, on a cruise, so she is on vacation this week and left it into the trusty hands of Mike and Jennifer. So thank you for indulging us in this information.
Thank you, Ms. Piazza. As Ms. Piazza mentioned, Mrs. Hilton and I will be a team approach as usual this evening, so I'll actually get things kicked off for us. It's really important that we have this opportunity as a C&I team to reflect, but also to make our reflection public to the Board of Education so that we can garner additional feedback as we revise and adjust our plans accordingly at a district level. Keep in mind that everything that we're doing here, we're doing at a micro level in each of our buildings and even each of our grade levels as we come to the conclusion of each of these significant points in the school year. So Gina, you can go ahead and click to the next slide. So if you all recall, we presented to you at mid-year, and during that presentation, we talked about where we are. Today, we're going to talk about, where we ended. And so our updates, for this year talk specifically about our end-of-year measurements, talking about some specific key points from those measurements, so some successes and some opportunities for growth. And then we'll talk a little bit about next steps as well. So to give you a picture of where we stand, Gino, you can go ahead and click to the next slide. As we presented back at the beginning of the year, at the middle of the year, we really stayed focused on our district comprehensive plan and its goals. And those goals, as displayed there for you, is that we want Eastern Area School District will increase the percentage of grade 3 students reading on or above grade level. And our target is 2027 school year. Our target for this year for that measurement was that we wanted 70% of all K3 students reading on grade level. So we have a few measurements we'll be talking about this evening. But there are many of those measurements where we are certainly meeting that target for the year in that grade K3, and there's also a little bit of room for growth in some of those areas. And then our second goal is more robust because it takes a look at both ELA and mathematics, and our goal is 80%. And right now for year one, we wanted to be at 65%. So we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like moving forward. Go ahead, Gino. So there are 3 primary points of data that we are going to be looking at this evening with you. Our cadence data, which takes a look at specific reading indicators. We're going to take a look at our STAR reading and math data. The STAR assessment we've been using for a number of years now, along with the cadence, different naming, but similar assessment. And that STAR assessment really gives us a close indicator of how students are going to perform on grade level measurements at year end, and more closely aligns to those Keystone assessments. And then the third is our IXL diagnostic tool that we currently use. And IXL gives us similar data to what we're seeing in Cadence and STAR. It gives us very specific skill breakdowns. But the most important part about IXL is its linkage to independent skill plans for kids. And so it allows us to get down to the student level and differentiate with efficiency. And then that allows us to meet the varied needs of our diverse student population. So we're going to take a look at all three this evening, and Mrs. Hilton's going to get us started with the cadence.
Thank you, Mr. Cook, and good evening, members of the board. I look forward to the day that I'm not nervous doing this. I'm still nervous after all these years, so kids, remember that. It's okay to be nervous. So thank you. As Mike mentioned, the first measure we're going to look at is Acadience, which is currently administered to our K2 students. Acadience is a risk assessment. This gives us an indication of which students may be at risk for reaching those grade level benchmarks in reading. And it really helps us zero in on those foundational skills of phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, and comprehension. So we use Acadience not just to adjust our core instruction to meet the needs and differentiate, especially during small group, but also to identify those students in need of intervention. So when we look at our kindergarten data, that rainbow display that they show, that is displayed there for our kindergartners, the red and the yellow indicate students that would be at risk for meeting those benchmark measures in those foundational literacy skills without intervention. And the blue and the green indicate students that are likely or on track of meeting those benchmarks. So when we look at our beginning of year data in kindergarten, we were at 53. Our end of year indicated that 74% of our students were at or above benchmark. And so 74% of our end of year kindergarten students are on track of meeting the beginning of year first grade reading benchmark. Bless you. I'm going to take a moment to highlight our kindergarten team at Paxenosa. If you recall, Mr. Couples was here at mid-year to present his mid-year data. We are implementing ECRI, which is Enhanced Core Reading Instruction, at Paxenosa in kindergarten. And ECRI is not necessarily an additional program or an additional curriculum. It is the method of delivery. And in this case, because we use Wonders, it's the explicit multisensory delivery using the science of teaching reading. So it's very explicit, very multisensory. And you can see from the data at PAX, they hit it out of the ballpark. So only 38% of our students at Paxenosa were on track at the beginning of the year. They are sending first grade 83% on track for meeting those beginning of year benchmark. In addition to that, something that really stood out is there's no end of year benchmark for whole word reading in kindergarten. First graders are expected to come in at the beginning of first grade reading one whole word, but we looked at it anyway. So our kindergartners at Paxenosa, 75% of kids at the end of kindergarten at Paxenosa read at least 3 whole words in the nonsense correct letter sound measurement, which is incredible. That is just phenomenal. So it was the average across the whole grade level in kindergarten at Paxenosa was 11. I'm still crunching the numbers to get the district average, but really anything above 5 is just really, really astounding. So Paxenosa is very excited to move kindergarten up to move ECRI training up to first grade. And we are also expanding ECRI into Cheston at the kindergarten level. So Mr. Yanders and his team will be working collaboratively with Mr. Couples and his team to learn from their successes and plan for that implementation. Our first grade data district-wide showed beginning of year 50% of students were at or above or on track to meet those grade level standards. We ended at 62. That seems low and that doesn't show a lot of growth, but this is when we really start putting the pedal to the metal, so to speak. We are expecting students to read connected text. So they're reading paragraphs, and we're also starting to assess comprehension. So we're raising the bar, and this is very typical, but it's an area that we need to work on, because what that progress percentage show that we've got about 46% of our students not making what we consider typical progress. So we want to make at least typical progress, but we want to make well above typical progress for students that are in that red and yellow at the beginning of the year. So we have some work to do in first grade, and I'm very used to seeing that kind of data, so we know how to tackle it. Second grade, we started at the same thing. We're raising the bar. We went from 72 to 68. I kind of look at that as we're maintaining. So as we're raising the bar, we're implementing new core curriculum, even though it's Wonders, there's some nuanced changes to it. So we're really maintaining, but again, I'm seeing the half glass full, but also half empty, because I see that 58%, but that indicates, if I'm doing the math right, 42% of students aren't on track and making that typical growth. So we have some work to do in second grade as well. But all in all, we're very happy with what we're seeing, because we didn't see that implementation dip that we would expect when we're implementing not just one new curriculum, but 4 new curricula. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Cook again to talk about STAR data this time.
Thank you, Jennifer. So the STAR assessments are computer adaptive. What that means is that students are given specific questions based upon their responses, and the STAR assessment is giving them a scaled score, and it's able to adapt to the learner. So it isn't a grade level measurement that's given to every child in second grade, that it fluctuates. So it could go as high as 4th or 5th grade with specific questions, and then it could float well down within 3 grade bands below. So it really gives a good scaled score, an indicator of student progress across years as much as it does during one particular year. And that's what really helps us, and the reason why we continue to use STAR moving forward. Go ahead, Gino. So the next slide is a breakdown. So I got a couple colors on the chart here this evening to kind of give us an accurate picture of what we're seeing both this year at the beginning and the end. As you can see, those green arrows indicate an increase of 5% for grade 3. Probably statistically insignificant there, of a 1% decline in grade 4, a 2% increase in grade 5. We stayed even in grade 6, grade 7, a 9% increase, and grade 8, an 8% increase in the percentage of students at or above benchmark. As Mrs. Hilton mentioned, I want to emphasize, it's not the same assessment in September as it is in May. And so the way that STAR works is students are expected 1 month of growth, right, each of the 9-10 months that they're in school. And so when they're not meeting that scaled growth for the year, then they're not necessarily going to reach that at or above benchmark by year end. The far right column is the growth target. So something else that STAR does for us is it gives us a student growth percentile. So basically it compares apples to apples and oranges to oranges. It takes a 6th grade scaled score at 236 at the beginning of the year, for example, and it compares it to hundreds of thousands of other students, same grade level, same scaled score, and then they give a percentile for the growth for the year. So we are looking for 35 SGP, which means that those students are 35%, scoring 35% higher than their peers, and that is the typical growth for students in each of those grade levels. So as you can see on the right, all of those numbers are green, which also indicates that they are increases from last school year. The column there at the spring benchmark that displays green and red also indicates that we are either higher in green or lower in red than we were last school year. Some notable things from last year to this year, so 23-24 to 24-25, is that there's a 10% increase in the percentage of students at or above benchmark in current 7th grade. So it's not, the grade level, it's those actual students. So last year, those students in 6th grade were at 40%. This year, those students are at 50%. So we moved over 10% of our current 7th graders from below benchmark to at or above. That's pretty significant. Once again, to keep them where they are, to maintain, and then also to bring along 10% more. So kudos to that team at the middle school for that achievement and those students for their hard work. And 8th grade, our current 8th graders this year moving up next year to the high school. Last year at 47%, this year at 53%. So we increased that by 6% for those students. So all in all, we're seeing some nice increases in literacy as we reported at mid-year. And then there are some opportunities for growth, as Ms. Hilton said, with the cadence, some of the early grade levels, and there's obviously some room for growth here in grades 4 and 5. But again, we are seeing that growth, and we are seeing a new curriculum being implemented in many of these areas as well, with very little implementation dip, which is really significant for us as a district. Gino, the next slide. So we'll take a look at mathematics. This isn't uncommon. We're typically moving up in mathematics. Students are really moving ahead and gaining skills pretty rapidly. ELA tends to slow down a little bit more. It becomes a little bit more rigorous, but we're introducing new skills. And so we're seeing, healthy increases and some significant ones. Again, looking at the middle level, for example, 21% of students, 21% increase, starting at 28% and ending just shy of 50% of our students at or above benchmark. And the data here, too, is a very close resemblance to what we'll be seeing most likely on the PSSA in terms of its reliability in predicting those year-end results. On the far right, again, we're seeing all but 2 grade levels, which are higher in their meeting their growth, the percentage of students meeting their growth target this year. So that's another positive. And then again, to note, looking at the red and the blue, or excuse me, the red and the green there, we're seeing a rather large increase in 4 grade levels this year in mathematics. So our current 5th graders, from last year, they were at 37%. There's been a 5% increase to 42. A 3% for our 6th graders, 38 to 41. 12% increase for our current 7th grade students from last year. 49% last year was 37. And then an 8% increase in those 8th grade students. 41 they were at the end of last year, and 49% of them at or above at the end of this year. So those are very good numbers. And then, like I said before, there are some opportunities for growth there as we look at grade 3 and grade 2. But overall, we're really pleased with the efforts of our teachers and our administrators at the building level for their hard work and dedication this year. And the data is showing that hard work and dedication throughout the year. And again, we're implementing new Reveal Math is brand new. So this year, they took on a brand-new math curriculum. We've had a lot of experience with Wonders, a different edition, a different approach. But with mathematics, we're definitely headed in the right direction. And we have some really good plans for next year as well. IXL, Gino, next slide. As I mentioned before, IXL gives us some of the at or above, but we really like IXL for its ability to diagnose student need. And then allow us to assign those things, those skill plans directly to students and differentiate. Gina, you can go ahead and click to the next slide. So again, we're seeing the increases that we're expecting to see. Students are in the system, they're working on specific skills, and then they're taking a diagnostic assessment, which then updates their levels. So the work that they're doing when they're stepping into the arena is measuring their diagnostic, and then the work that they're doing during the school week and during that time is also calculated in how they're performing towards meeting those grade level goals. All right, math growth, Gina. So again, we're seeing similar increases as we have in the past. Almost 93% of our kids in kindergarten are at or above right now using this IXL data. As you know, we won't get a PSSA indicator until grade 3. So it's really important that we have these measurements. And what's most important is that we're seeing that beginning of the year and the end of the year data showing increases. Because as we know, the scale increases for proficiency as the year progresses for our students. In terms of meeting their growth target, I want to explain what that looks like over there, because certainly numbers like 45 and 69 or even 33% are not the percentages that we'd like to see, but it's a very tough target. So that's looking at 100 points of growth in a year. So typically it's 10 points per month. There's 10 months in a school year, but I think we all know we don't really get 10 months of instruction during the school year. We get about 180 days, break that down into weekly increments. And so, we are certainly stressing its importance. But I'll also say in terms of meeting the growth targets with IXL is they do have new curriculum this year, and they are using that curriculum. So we don't want to just look at this in isolation. We want to look at what we're doing right now with STAR. And if that data is proving that we are making those increases that we need, then this is just another data point to help us steer us in the right direction moving forward. All right, I'll turn it back over to Mrs. Hilton to talk a
Thank
little bit
you.
about some key data points and kind of our next steps.
Gino, I apologize, I forgot to give you cues the first time I was up. I was advancing my slide, but forgot it was not connected, so I apologize for that. So just to summarize the points that Mike and I were mentioning over the last 15 minutes or so, some key data points. And one thing, this is why reflection is so important, is to ask that question, why? We celebrate our success for sure. We identify our strengths, but we want to make sure that all students are succeeding. So we dig into the why, like Mike said, both at the district level, but also at the micro level at the building, and drilling down to individual teachers. Why aren't students making expected growth? Is it the preservation of time? Are we maximizing that core instruction? Is our core instruction strong? Are we intervening the right kids in the right way? Is there attendance issue, or are there other issues? And that's all part of our MTSS process. What can we learn from each other? We see even within a building, there's classrooms that are successful, other classrooms that are struggling. So we learn at the building level, but also at the district level, what's happening over at Paxanosa in the kindergarten classes. And we know ECRI does have an impact on their literacy success. So that's something that we're going to capitalize on. And like Mike mentioned before, we had 4 new curriculums, and to not see a significant implementation dip in math and ELA is something that we celebrated. So some successes that we mentioned before, K3 are on track for reading and math as far as their end of year target at 65% or above in benchmark. So we're on track for math and reading. The STAR data shows an increase in students at or above, and that kindergarten growth at PACS we had mentioned before. So we're feeling good about our ELA goal for the end of the 26-27 school year. Math, we're kind of so-so. We know we have some work to do in both areas, but right now ELA is a strength. Math is probably one of our areas that we need to work on a little bit more and a little more targeted next year. Gino, thank you. So next steps, when we talk about as a group, as a C&I team, but also with our building leadership, 4 areas really come into play: the master schedule, curriculum instruction, assessments, and professional development. So when we're looking at the master schedule, we're really focusing on preserving instructional time, making sure that our transitions are tight, that we've got a common expectation for ELA and math core curriculum, K5, focusing on that improved core instruction, following that 80% rule, which shows the research. If we are really good at strong core instruction, tier 1 instruction, that works for 80% of kids. So that's where our focus should be before tier 2, tier 3 intervention. As far as curriculum instruction, we want to make sure that we're implementing the approved curriculum with fidelity and with best practices. So we're building up that pedagogical knowledge in our teachers and their ability to implement and deliver the core curriculum with fidelity, and using that science and that art of teaching that comes with each individual teacher. We're going to focus on our walkthroughs as a team, again, as a district level, but also at the building level in our PLCs, to make sure that we're providing that timely feedback for teachers to improve their instruction, just like they give that timely feedback to their students. And again, as I mentioned before, we're expanding the ECRI, or that enhanced core instruction, from PACS kindergarten up to 1st grade, and from Paxanosa over to Cheston in kindergarten. As far as assessments, to expand those data points and make sure that we're looking at curriculum-based assessments, we want to make sure our K-12 students are taking unit assessments that are aligned with their new curricula. That wasn't necessarily an expectation year 1, but it will be moving into year 2. So in addition to IXL, STAR, and Acadience K-5, we will also start implementing those Wonders assessments, the Reveal assessments, so we can have a better idea of students moving towards those grade level standards.
Real quick, Jennifer.
Yes, sir.
And one important point, this year, our teachers have done an outstanding job with utilizing those assessments as learning tools. And because they are extremely rigorous, particularly for the mathematics, not that Wonders isn't, but the mathematics is rigorous, and our teachers are really utilizing them as scaffolding. So working with the students through those difficult problems, and as they've been progressing throughout the course of the school year, continuing to implement them and having students do more on their own, so that next year we can really raise the bar in terms of our expectations there with those curriculum-based assessments.
Thank you. And the last bullet point there, professional development. We surveyed our staff at the end of May to get their feedback about what they perceive as their personal needs and professional needs. And we're going to use that information we gathered from about 450 teachers to really differentiate and personalize the workshop model that Ms. Piazza requested for next year's in-service date. So we're excited about having some must-dos that we want to make sure that all of our teachers are receiving and our principals, but also providing that personalized experience for our teachers to make sure that they're getting what they want, and hopefully to make those days more engaging and improve our attendance. So that's all for us. And last slide, Gina, if there's any questions, we're happy to answer those.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Sorry, I don't have any questions, but I'm going to say this again. Can we please have the presentations prior to the meeting? Because there's no way that I can look at this data and make any comments or suggestions or questions. And, you know, I'm going to say again, I've been here a long time, so even looking at this, I just want to realize that although the growth is great, I'm still looking at, we have a huge percentage of kids who are not on grade level or above. And that's a big concern. So that's really the only comment, but if we could get the presentation, I would greatly appreciate it, because being able to review it ahead of time would have been beneficial to me.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, that concludes my report. Thank you. Mike and Jen, thank you.
Okay, next we'll be moving on to reports. Colonial Intermediate Unit 20, Mr. Snyder.
Yeah, thank you. Real quick, I did email a copy of the newsletter on May 29th to your inbox. Our next meeting is tomorrow. There is no July meeting, and just of note to the public and those interested, the meeting time starting in August, the IU is going to change from 7:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. So that begins effective in August. That concludes the report.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Next is the Eastern Area Public Library. Mrs. Long said she could not be here tonight. I guess the heat is just a bit much, not just for her. The report is attached in the agenda. Career Institute of Technology, I unfortunately could not be at the meeting. I don't know if Mrs. Horvath-Benninger was there.
Yes, I was there. We did a walkthrough of the building showing the potential spaces that will be done for expansion. And we were given a lot of good information about that. And that was followed up with a Zoom call a week later, which unfortunately I was not able to attend. I wasn't in town. But very excited about the expansion project for CIT. Thank you.
Yeah, so just so those individuals are aware, there was a special meeting on June 19th. It was a discussion for the expansion at CIT to add more classrooms, basically for welding. We also have the vet tech that has been, and they're looking to expand some of those programs and continue to grow those programs. So that was for CIT. Next, we have Northampton Community College, Mr. Fainall.
Thank you, Jody. So, as you see in the report, just standard stuff, you know, approving this, approving that, purchases and everything. But interestingly enough, we always look ahead as well as looking back to see where's our growth and everything. And we're noticing that we had a 4 to 5% increase as of the end of May this year, which is excellent. When we look at some of our other colleagues and everything, we notice that they're not seeing that same kind of growth, which has a lot to say about this area and everything, and people getting reskilled, retrained and everything, as well as students, again, attending and all. Last note there, you know, in sports, you hear this many times when David's here, and that is that we continue a definite winning tradition in everything in athletics with continuing in after-season play and all. Other than that, just like you, we're excited to see when the state budget gets approved and make sure that we're getting the funding that we're expecting. And last but not least, we also take a break during the summer. No meeting in July, so I'll be back in August. Thank you.
Stay cool. Next, Ms. Sayago, is she on? Do we have anything for Foundation for Schools, Easton Schools?
Yes, thank you. Just have more information about that at our next meeting. And we have also accepted the applications of 3 new individuals from our community to serve as board members as well. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
And just so those who missed it, she said that they had extended an offer to a new executive director for the foundation. Next is Charles Schrin Science and Technology Initiative, and we have no report for that tonight. Association reports, is there anyone from the EIEA, PTA? No, okay. All right, so next we have public to be heard on agenda items. If there's anyone in the public who would like to be heard on agenda items, please come to the podium, sign in. You'll have your 5 minutes to speak. Okay, seeing none. Eastern Area School District held the following executive sessions on May 21st for confidential personnel and settlement, and on June 3rd for personnel and legal. Next, we'll move on to approving. All right, I need a motion to approve the minutes for the following meetings: Academic Standing Committee meeting, Budget and Finance Standing Committee meeting, Educational Technology and Student Supports all held May 13th, and the regular board meeting held May 21st.
Motion.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next we'll move on to personnel. We'll take A, motion to approve the settlement agreement as presented. I need a motion. Second, okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next we will take B, affiliation agreement, motion to approve the affiliation agreement as presented for Ohio University.
Motion.
Any questions or discussion?
Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next we will take C, D, and E. C, motion to terminate the following employees as presented. D, motion with regrets and best wishes to approve the following retirements as presented. And E, motion to approve the following resignations as presented. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we will take F, G, H, and I. F, motion to approve the following leave of absences as presented. G, motion to approve the following administrative transfers as presented. H, motion to elect the following support staff as presented pending receipt of all forms and documents required by the district. And I, motion to elect the following administrative staff as presented pending receipt of all forms and documents required by the district.
Motion.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain on I.
Okay,
I'm a no on H3, and I talked about the salary, not the person, but the salary issue and the comparison, so I'm a no on H3.
okay. Mrs. Ramirez, do you have that? Okay. Okay, next we have, we'll take J, K, L, and M. J, motion to elect the following coaches as presented pending receipt of all forms and documents required by the district. K, motion to elect the following volunteer coach as presented pending receipt of all forms and documents required by the district. L, motion to approve the following changes to the contractual EPFED stipends as presented. And M, motion to elect the following employees as presented pending receipt of all forms and documents required by the district. I need a second. Okay, any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I will abstain on M. Okay, next we have N and O. N, motion to approve the following support staff substitute as presented pending receipt of all forms and documents required by the district. And O, motion to elect the following summer employee as presented pending receipt of all forms and documents required by the district. Okay, any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next we will move on to academics. We'll just take A through F. A, motion to approve the renewal of CIS contract for the 25-26 school year as presented. B, motion to approve conflicts of interest federal programs as presented. C, motion to approve the following renewals as presented. D, motion to approve the following PA Smart Planning Grant contract as presented. E, motion to approve the following contract with SREB for K through 12 mathematics support as presented. And F, motion to approve the following field trip as presented.
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
I have a question on, what is the SREB, mass support, is that new?
Mr. Simonetta, that was on the academic committee meeting earlier this month.
That I missed it.
That is, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm just letting you know, it was on there. And that is going to be math support. If you look in there, it's itemized. It will include a comprehensive needs assessment, 4 professional development days for building level leaders, 2 professional development days with staff, and then there is a coaching plan for 6th grade for mathematics for next school year. That's what that contract is for.
And is that new for?
That is new.
25, 26?
That'll be new for 25, 26, that's correct.
So the reason why I ask is, as part of the budget process, we were presented with a number of contracts that were not going to be renewed.
Correct.
For this year. And I would like to, honestly, I would like to see a list of those and the dollars that we didn't renew. And, because I'm looking at what's on the academics agenda tonight, that's probably about $1.5 million of contract renewals. And I know a lot of these are renewals. And just that, are these, obviously, these are not part of the ones we were going to eliminate. But if we could have a list of all of the contracts, I think we asked that before, and then the ones that were eliminated for this year, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Semina, to your question there about that particular contract, as you may recall, middle school was in that cascading CSI, right? CIS? I always
Correct,
get those
CSI.
CSI, which is the school improvement portion of that. And so they are receiving some funds because of that designation, and also being intentional about their programming with their students and staff around their specific needs and requests. And so this was one of those needs.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay on C and E.
Okay. All right, next we'll move on to athletics. We have one item, approval. Motion to approve the JV varsity team travel to Orlando, Florida on 2/4/26 to 2/9/26 for the UCA National High School Championship Competition as presented. And this is for cheering.
Motion.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next we have budget and finance. We'll take A through E. A, motion to approve the attached stipulation of council concerning the net tax assessment appeals for the properties noted as attached, and to authorize the solicitor to execute said stipulations. B, motion to approve financial matters as presented, the treasurer's report, the monthly student activity statements for EAMS and EHS, the bill register regular and ACH, the general funds, special activities, capital projects, food service. C, motion to approve the proposal from Burke One to prepare and mail the 25-26 school district tax bills as presented. D, motion to approve the liability insurance renewals as presented. And E, motion to approve the annual service agreements for 5 district laminators with ACCO Brands, Inc. as presented.
So moved.
Any questions or discussion?
I have a comment or question on the assessment appeals. I know the attachments show the tax dollar change and stuff like that. What I'd like to see also is the net impact, minus the attorney fees, appraisal fees, and all that stuff, what we're actually receiving, for these stipulations, if that's possible.
Sure, yeah, we can try and get something like that together for the future. I will say none of these involved appraisals, and just gross numbers of the appeals is approximately $300,000 in back taxes for prior years that were at issue, and new school district taxes going forward of about $840,000.
Yeah, and then again, there's obviously not appraisal this time, but there's fees that are associated with recouping that money. So it'd be good to see the net, the final number. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next we have F through H. F, motion to approve the stipulations as presented. G, motion to approve the adoption of the E EASD 25-26 final general fund budget with revenue of $214,105,899 with the attached tax levy resolution as presented. And H, motion to approve the CFO to make the necessary budget transfers required to close the 24-25 fiscal year.
Motion.
Any questions or discussion?
I do have a couple of questions on the budget document. I noticed that on the fund balances, first page of the document, there's no dollar amounts listed in any of the categories. Is that an oversight, or are we anticipating we don't know 23-24 yet, we don't know the impact of 24-25. Are we anticipating that it's going to be completely wiped out, or do we need to?
Well, I'm not sure what we anticipate. I've been working with the auditor this week to return the document that would allow me to put the accurate numbers in there. I didn't want to put any number in the budget document that wasn't going to be
Right.
completely accurate.
But are you thinking that we're going to be that close not to put anything in there?
I do not know the answer at this time.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to make a comment about the budget, and the first thing and foremost, I'd like to thank our new CFO for putting something together that, for the most part, show real dollars, real numbers, and not anticipating taking additional funds from whatever is left over from our fund balance. I am struggling with this item, as I support the need and the strategy to fund the high school. I support the 2% to maintain the programs, but I'm just struggling with how we got here in 4 short years. So I'm struggling. I know we made a lot of headway in reducing expenditures, but we're not out of the woods. And again, based on the conversation about the fund balances and the unknowns for this year and the previous year, I just need to make the point that we are, as I said, not out of the woods, and we need to be very diligent on all of our expenses moving forward. That's staffing, that's contracts, that's everything. We started the program with funding the high school, which is sorely needed. And in order to continue that, that's multiple years. In order to continue that and keep the taxes down as much as possible, we need to be very cognizant of our daily expenses. Thanks.
Again, we've all said we appreciate everything that you've done, Jack. Would it be beneficial for us to, again, schedule an ad hoc meeting very soon to sort of discuss some of these things again?
I think it would be beneficial once the audit comes back or the preliminary numbers from there, so.
Do you know when that,
I'm pushing for it either
Yeah.
this week or next.
okay.
It has to be finished, so I've been working with her.
Yeah, you're closing out this year now.
Exactly.
And they're coming right back at us.
Yeah. The tempo has picked up with it. It's on its way to be completed.
Okay. And that's a good point, Jody. We should, I mean, even to discuss the preliminary audit findings from the ad hoc committee would be appreciated.
Okay. All right, any other questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next, we'll be moving on to educational technology and student supports. And, oh, sorry.
Before you start there, Mr. Ziadic would like.
Yeah, I'd just like to make one thing clear. As I was reviewing these for this evening, there was one of the contracts on here that I quite honestly removed, and I don't know how that got back on there, but that's on me. It's one of the contracts that we reviewed and we did not feel like we wanted to continue with. That is the Easton Paraeducator contract, the third one down in your list. That is actually online training that the IU utilizes for, and we've utilized for some of our paraprofessionals. We also offer Vector Solutions to do that training. So at this time, it's one of those that I was not ready to bring forth for consideration. So I'd like to make that, known, and if we could look at the other ones minus that, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so for the contract renewals, we'll make a motion to approve contract renewals as presented with the removal of the Easton Paraeducator 24-25 contract. Is that sufficient? Okay. We'll just go through the rest here. B, motion to approve the Valley Family Therapeutics IEE contract for OT as presented. C, motion to approve the Follett Destiny Resource Management Agreement as per attached. And D, motion to approve the Bucksmont lease as presented.
Motion.
Okay, any questions or discussion?
I do.
Go ahead. 'Cause-
Josh, on the industrial communications, so I know the board briefed, there was a new RFP that went out, but this says a renewal, so
Yeah.
is it something new, the new thing that you put out?
No, it's actually a great question, Mike, thanks. So it has nothing to do with the RFP. It's actually something that industrial charged us for the actual radios on a yearly basis.
Okay.
Because we're in that process, Mike, we've actually went back to them and asked them if they would be willing to change that to a monthly basis, so we weren't paying for a whole year in advance. So it's actually a month-by-month now charge. It's a renewal, but we changed it to a month-by-month for now.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
On the Bucksmont lease, there's, and again, my confusion, maybe, we have 25 slots, but in the wording throughout the lease, it says 25 and then it says 35.
Sure. Yeah, so our contract, we start with 25 slots. If for some reason, we cannot place students at other areas and we need to have a student placed at a school, and Bucksmont would be the choice, what they're saying is that we can go up to that amount at the 20% discount, but we are locking in for 25.
Okay, but there's got to be room with that extra 10 for our students.
Correct.
Okay, but we get, all right.
Yeah, so we're agreeing to
Additional
25.
For 20%.
But we also want to have that in place to say, hey, if we still need more, just as we would with any other school, we'd like that rate to be a discounted rate, and they agreed to do that up to 35 need be.
Okay, okay. Do, again, when you get a chance, can you provide, is the current rate in the contract the actual rate versus the 20% discount? Just like to see what we're getting for, because we're only getting $100,000 per year for that building, and I don't know what the 20%
Yeah, I
amount.
don't believe that current rate is in that contract, but I can get that for you to share with you.
It'd be good to know what the affiliation with Bucksmont, what we're actually getting for them using that building, keeping that building going.
No, that's fair.
And the last question I have, I think, in this section is the behavior consultant contract. For
Brett Denovi?
$236,000.
Yeah, so, yep, great question. So the Brett Denovi contract, that is a contract that we brought here last year, and there's a couple things. So the $36,000 is for the ESY, So, and then the other 200,000 is for the school year. That is a contract not to exceed $200,000 that is paid by Medical Access. And then what I will share with you is a quick run of the numbers this year from August to the end of April. We expended about $79,000. I don't have the last
200?
month. Up to two, yeah, so we had that up to 200, but we expended 79 up through the end of April. I don't have the end of May, so I don't know, but I would guess probably on average, probably looking at around 90,000, somewhere around there. But I will say, Mike, that contract is important to us because of a couple requirements that we have for ESY students and for some of the students that we currently have, at our schools. What happened was we have a lot of students that when we look to the IU for placement in some of our artistic classrooms, et cetera, they did not have room, nor did they have the ability to provide the services that were needed. So instead of looking outward and elsewhere, we partnered with Brett DeNovi to bring in certain positions in order to meet those students' needs in-house.
And we don't have staff
We do not.
to do that? So, I mean, I would like to see what we spent. I'm looking at the last couple bill lists, check registers, and it's usually around anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000. So,
Yep.
I mean,
So in August to September, just to give you some quick rundown, 1625, next month 1857, next month 45, next month 57. Back, so
this bill list is 20,000.
so each month I can give you the amounts.
Okay.
Now, if we went and we paid those, together in 2 or 3 months, possibly. But I will say the highest month that we had expenditure was February 23rd to March 8th. We expended $12,056. So just to kind of give you an idea, the average that we've expended was probably about, roughly $8,500, $7,000 to $8,500 per month throughout the entire year. So we're at a little less than 100 for the year, but the contract is not to exceed 200 just to be safe. And then the 36,000 is purely for the ESY because we have some of those requirements.
Okay.
Okay?
So correspondingly, you budget $200,000 for it.
Correct. In our access?
Right.
Correct.
Oh, for the access.
So that's where we have it budgeted from is our access. And that we allotted $200,000, actually 237, I think, is what we have in the lines there for access.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Yep.
Mike, you already stole mine for the Bucksmont with the comparison of the two.
All right.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I will be saying no to D. Okay, next we'll move on to policy. We have A, Policy 103, Discrimination, Title IX, Sexual Harassment Affecting Students. This is our first reading. And B, Policy 104, Discrimination, Title IX, Sexual Harassment Affecting Staff for our first reading. Oh, wait, I think it's just informational.
Yeah, just informational today, so both of these are up for their first reading for some amendments, and then they'll be up for approval July 22nd. So if you do take a look at these, the revisions, they don't introduce significant changes to our procedures, but you will see the addition of religious creed and pregnancy-related conditions, and also some other updated legal languages in there, just to ensure that we remain in compliance. You'll also see there are also updates to the documents that are attached to these policies, which involve changes that are related, again, religious creed, pregnancy-related conditions, and some other tweaking of some legal language in there. It also updates the name of the Title IX coordinator as well, so that is updated in the contact information. And again, this will appear on next month's regular board meeting agenda for approval.
Okay, does anyone have any questions on that? Okay. All right, next we move on to other business. We have A, B, and C. A, motion to approve the expulsion hearing waiver form for student number 39444 under the terms as presented. B, motion to approve the settlement agreement as presented. And C, motion to approve the settlement agreement as presented. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, next we have D, motion to approve the Articles of Agreement for the Career Institute of Technology as presented.
Motion.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, next we have public to be heard on non-agenda items. Is there anyone in the public who would like to be heard on non-agenda items? Okay, seeing none. Is there any other business from board members?
Jody, I am not a board member, but if I may add something.
Sure.
All right, Mike, to give you the answer real quick for you, for our, the contractor rate for 25-26, for a regular ed student is generally 40,000. Our rate is 32, which is the 20%. The special ed rate is 46,000. We pay about 37,300. And then obviously we look to get the students, transitioning back, when we can, when they meet their goals. So they're not there all year. But if you want to break that down, it's about $170 a day for regular ed and $200 a day for special ed. You got it.
So I know we're past this point, but since you brought this up, approximately how many students, do we know how many students we had over the course of the year, what an average would be?
I'll ask Craig. We had up about 44 at the highest amount, but we are looking to start the year at 20. We're at 22 right now, and we look to start 25. But at any given time, Jody, it might differ, but we had up to 44 last year, I believe.
So this might be a question maybe to go back to standing committee at some point, but my concern is, if we're looking at 25, looking up to 35, and we had 44 up to 55, question I have is, what are we doing with those other students then? So we can take that back to standing committee. Okay, is there anything else from any board members? Okay, seeing none, call for an adjournment at 8:40. All in favor? Thank you. Thanks for coming, guys.